Welcome to another audit walkthrough video from SuperfastCPA. I'm Logan, and in today's video, we're going to be going over Audit Area 4. This is still in Section A. This is a remembering and understanding topic. Identify the appropriate use of emphasis of matter and other matter or explanatory paragraphs. And we're going to be doing that the SuperfastCPA way, which is diving straight into the questions to learn the material. Now, if you don't know much about our strategies, make sure you go to superfastcpa.com and sign up for our free 1-hour webinar training. Again, it is free. It is only 1 hour long, and we will teach you the key ingredients to passing the CPA exams, so you don't waste months or even years of your time failing exams. So make sure you check out the webinar, and after you watch that, you're going to want to learn more, so make sure you also check out becoming a Superfast CPA Pro member. Superfast CPA Pro members get access to the full 10-question versions of these 5-question YouTube videos. So again, we're only going over 5 questions today, but Superfast CPA Pro members will get access to the full 10-question version so that they can get a little bit more help and a little bit more understanding. So if you like this and you like our other products, make sure you check out becoming a Superfast CPA Pro member. Now with all that, let's dive straight into the questions. All right, here we are at question 1. In the previous video, we talked about the different audit opinions, unmodified or unqualified, qualified, adverse, disclaimer of opinion. But in this video, again, we are talking about emphasis of matter paragraphs and other matter paragraphs. So they're related, but these are a little bit different. So let's go ahead and dive in. Which of the following situations would most likely require the auditor to include an emphasis of matter paragraph in the auditor's report for a non-issuer? Okay, so with that, let's dive into the different options. Option A, a significant related party transaction was properly disclosed in the notes. Option B, a material change in accounting principle that is accounted for retrospectively. Option C, the entity is involved in a major lawsuit that may affect future operations. Or option D, a hurricane caused severe damage to one of the entity's warehouses after year end. So again, which one of these would require the auditor to include an emphasis of matter paragraph for a non-issuer? Now, if you have any idea what an emphasis of matter paragraph is, that's great. But if you have no idea what that is yet, that's okay. We are using these questions to learn about it. So let's go ahead and dive into the explanation right now. All right, here we are at the answer. B, a material change in accounting principle that is accounted for retrospectively that would require an emphasis of matter paragraph in the report. So let's kind of dive into this and understand what we're even talking about here. An emphasis of matter paragraph is required under GAS when certain events or conditions are present and adequately disclosed, such as, so these are the events where it has to be in there, it is required. A material change in accounting principle that is accounted for retrospectively, a correction of a material misstatement in previously issued financial statements, substantial doubt about the entity's ability to continue as a going concern, or when financial statements are prepared in accordance with a special purpose framework. So those are the situations where it is required for an auditor to include an emphasis of matter paragraph in their auditor's report. In these cases, the matter is fundamental to understanding the financial statements, so the auditor must highlight it with an emphasis of matter paragraph. So again, these are super crucial. They are things that people need to know and they need to be pointed out to them, so it's required to have it for those situations. However, auditors may also choose to include an emphasis of matter paragraph for other significant matters, even if not required, such as, so these ones are ones where the auditor may do it. They can choose to do it based on their judgment, but it's not required. Significant related party transactions, if there's significant related party transactions, or unusually important legal contingencies, or major catastrophes that have had or may have a significant effect on the entity's financial position. So again, those are situations where the auditor may choose to do it. In those cases, it's up to the auditor's judgment whether the information is so important to understanding the financials that it warrants added emphasis. So the idea behind this is when there are big things that happened in the financial statements that the auditor wants to make sure people look at, they have this emphasis of matter paragraph, and there's certain situations where it's required and there's some where the auditor can choose, but that's kind of the general idea so far. Now let's go ahead and go to the next question to learn a little bit more. All right, here we are at question 2. And something I always like to point out when it is an option is to read the last part of the question first, the last sentence, because frequently that will give you context for what the question is about. Imagine you are on test day and you have no idea what you're going to be seeing in the questions, and you read the last sentence first and you immediately know, let's do it here, how should the auditor address this in the audit report? Okay, so at least with this question, we would know we're dealing with the audit report and not something else that we've talked about in all the other videos. So again, that gives you a little bit of context, and sometimes you get even more context. So this is a great habit and a great strategy to be in, especially for test day. So let's go up to the top. During an audit of a non-issuer, the auditor determines that the entity changed from one generally accepted accounting principle to another. The change was properly disclosed and justified as preferable, and the new principle was applied retrospectively. How should the auditor address this in the audit report? Okay, so let's go through the options. Option A, issue an unmodified opinion and include an emphasis of matter paragraph to describe the change. Option B, issue a qualified opinion due to the change in principle. Option C, issue an adverse opinion because comparability has been affected. Or option D, issue a disclaimer of opinion and include an other matter paragraph describing the change. So in the previous video, again, we talked about the different kinds of opinions. So take what you learned from that video and maybe think about it here. But if you have no idea what the situation would require, that's okay. We are using this question to learn more. So let's go ahead and dive into the explanation right now. All right, here we are at the answer. A, issue an unmodified opinion and include an emphasis of matter paragraph to describe the change. So in these specific situations, when there is a justified change in accounting principle that is preferable, properly disclosed, and applied retrospectively, the financial statements are still considered to be fairly presented. Therefore, the auditor should issue an unmodified opinion. So again, that goes back to what we learned in the previous video. Because it's properly disclosed and it's applied retrospectively and it's preferable, the financial statements can still be fairly presented. Therefore, the auditor can still give an unmodified opinion. However, because this type of change affects the comparability of the financial statements across periods, the auditor is required to include an emphasis of matter paragraph in the report. This paragraph should describe the change and refer users to the relevant note in the financial statements. So even though it's an unmodified opinion, because they are doing a change in a generally accepted accounting principle from one to another, people need to know that, and it's going to affect people being able to look at one period compared to another, because again, they're doing a big change. So even though it's okay and that the opinion is unmodified, they still want people to know about it, so they still have an emphasis of matter paragraph, even with an unmodified opinion. So that's a very specific situation where if there's a justified change, you can still have an unmodified opinion, but you need to have an emphasis of matter paragraph. Now with that, let's go to the next question. All right, here we are at question 3. Which of the following statements best describes a requirement when an auditor includes an emphasis of matter paragraph in an unmodified audit report? Okay, so we are still learning about emphasis of matter paragraphs. Option A, the paragraph must explain the auditor's reasoning in detail, including professional judgment factors. Option B, the paragraph must contain the auditor's recommendation for how users should interpret the disclosed matter. Option C, the paragraph must be included in the basis for opinion section following the auditor's responsibilities. Or option D, the paragraph must refer to the relevant note in the financial statements that discusses the matter. So what is the auditor supposed to do when they are including an emphasis of matter paragraph in their report? If you have any idea, that's great. Pause the video and think about this. But if not, we're going to go ahead and look at the answer together right now. All right, here we are. The answer is D. The paragraph must refer to the relevant note in the financial statements that discusses the matter. So this is a requirement when you're doing an emphasis of matter paragraph. When an auditor includes an emphasis of matter paragraph, it is to highlight a matter that is already appropriately disclosed in the financial statements and is important to understanding them. So it's something that is already disclosed, it's already, people can already find it, but the emphasis of matter paragraph is there to make sure that people go look at it. The paragraph must clearly refer to the note that contains the disclosure, ensuring that users know where to find the detailed information. Situations where an emphasis of matter paragraph may be used in addition to required ones include, and again, we're kind of repeating what we learned in question 1, significant related party transactions, major catastrophes, unusually important subsequent events, or uncertainties related to pending litigation. The paragraph does not provide detailed reasoning or advice, nor is it placed within the opinion or basis for opinion section. And we haven't talked about those yet, but again, it's not going to be part of those. Its purpose is simply to direct users to disclosures that the auditor believes deserve special attention. So it's basically just to point out, hey, this is important, you need to go look at it. So with that, let's go to the next question. All right, here we are at question 4. Which of the following best explains the relationship between explanatory paragraphs and emphasis of matter paragraphs in audit reports? Okay, let's go through this. Option A. Explanatory paragraphs are used in both issuer and non-issuer audits, while emphasis of matter paragraphs are only used for foreign subsidiaries. Option B. Emphasis of matter paragraphs are required for issuer audits, while explanatory paragraphs are used at the auditor's discretion for non-issuers. Option C. Explanatory paragraphs in issuer audits serve the same purpose as emphasis of matter paragraphs in non-issuer audits under AUD CPA standards. Or option D. Explanatory paragraphs and emphasis of matter paragraphs are both modifications of the audit opinion when financial statements contain material uncertainties. So based on what we've learned so far, you can probably already think that one or two of those don't really make sense, but what's the relationship between emphasis of matter paragraph and explanatory paragraphs? If you know, that's great. If not, let's go ahead and dive into the answer together. All right, here we are at the answer. C. Explanatory paragraphs in issuer audits serve the same purpose as emphasis of matter paragraphs in non-issuer audits under AUD CPA standards. So basically, they're the same thing, but for different situations. Although the terminology differs depending on the auditing standards applied, both explanatory paragraphs under PCAOB standards for issuers and emphasis of matter paragraphs under AUD CPA standards for non-issuers are issued to highlight important matters already disclosed in the financial statements without modifying the auditor's opinion. So essentially, it is a word used for the same thing, but for an issuer or a non-issuer. So for issuers, you actually call it an explanatory paragraph, and for non-issuers, you call it an emphasis of matter paragraph. And we're actually going to learn a little bit more about one more difference between those in the next question, and I'll explain it then. But essentially, again, they're pretty much the same thing, but explanatory is for issuers, emphasis of matter paragraph is for non-issuers. These paragraphs are placed after the opinion and are required in certain circumstances. Again, we kind of talked about those already, such as going concern, justified accounting changes. But the specific terminology and structure vary based on whether the entity is a public issuer or private non-issuer. So that was a key distinction I wanted to make sure you knew there. Now let's go to the next question. All right, here we are at question 5. In which of the following situations would it be most appropriate for the auditor to include an other matter paragraph in the audit report of a non-issuer? Okay, let's go through the options. Option A, a justified change in accounting principle is applied retrospectively and properly disclosed. Option B, the financial statements include a material uncertainty related to pending litigation, which is adequately disclosed. Or option C, the auditor's report on the current period's financial statements is presented with prior period financial statements audited by a different auditor. Or option D, the entity corrected a material misstatement in prior financial statements and the correction is properly disclosed. So again, why would they use an other matter paragraph? That's something we haven't talked about very much yet, if at all. Now, if you know, that's great. If not, that's fine. We're going to use the explanation to learn. So let's go ahead and go to the explanation right now. All right, here we are. The answer is C. The auditor's report on the current period's financial statements is presented with prior period financial statements audited by a different auditor. So this would be a situation where you would want to have an other matter paragraph for a non-issuer. And I want to make that a key distinction in a moment here. This is specifically for a non-issuer, but let's dive into the explanation first. An other matter paragraph is used in a non-issuer's audit report to communicate information not included in the financial statements, but which is relevant to users' understanding of the audit itself, of the auditor's responsibilities, and of the auditor's report. A common example is when comparative financial statements are presented and a different auditor audited the prior year. In that case, the current auditor includes an other matter paragraph to reference the prior auditor's report, including the type of opinion issued and the report date. Now, before we dive into why the other options were incorrect, I want to again point out that this is specifically for a non-issuer, and I honestly didn't know this until I was preparing for this. But from what I understand, explanatory paragraphs for issuers basically cover both, the idea of an emphasis of matter paragraph, but they also cover other matter paragraphs. Essentially, explanatory paragraphs are everything for an issuer, but when it comes to a non-issuer, there's the emphasis of matter paragraph that we talked about a whole bunch. And then there is a distinction where it's also an other matter paragraph. That's a separate kind of thing. So again, just to make sure that I'm saying that clearly, for issuers, there's only explanatory paragraphs, and that covers emphasis of matter paragraph and other matter paragraphs. It's all explanatory paragraphs for issuers. But when it comes to non-issuers, it is an emphasis of matter paragraph or an other matter paragraph. So I just wanted to make sure that's clear. I honestly didn't know that until I was preparing for this. But again, since we are dealing with a non-issuer here, we have an other matter paragraph. Option A and D would both require an emphasis of matter paragraph because they relate to properly disclosed fundamental information in the financial statements. So you would have an emphasis of matter paragraph instead of an other matter paragraph. And then B also calls for an emphasis of matter paragraph if the uncertainty is fundamental and properly disclosed. So we learned a lot about emphasis of matter paragraphs, other matter paragraphs, and explanatory paragraphs in these 5 questions. Now, before we do anything else, let's do one more part of the SuperfastCPA process called pillar topics. Now, the idea behind pillar topics is as you're going through the questions to learn the material, you will notice the things that keep popping up. You've seen multiple questions trying to teach you about a certain subject, such as what is an emphasis of matter paragraph and when you are required to use it or when you may use it. Again, you are seeing these things pop up in the questions, and so you take a moment and you write them out in your own words as the pillar topics. And as you do this each day, you are building your own personal repository of the most important things you need to know, again, the pillar topics, based off the questions you went through in your own words. So let's go ahead and go to the pillar topics for this video. All right, here we are at the pillar topics for this video. Let's go ahead and dive into each one of them. First off, let's just talk about emphasis of matter paragraphs in general. An emphasis of matter paragraph is used in a non-issuer audit report to highlight a matter that is appropriately disclosed in the financial statements and is fundamental to the user's understanding. It does not modify the auditor's opinion and must refer to the related note in the financial statements. So again, that's an emphasis of matter paragraph. Now let's talk about situations requiring or allowing emphasis of matter paragraphs. An emphasis of matter paragraph is required for justified changes in accounting principles, corrections of material misstatements, going concern issues, and use of special purpose frameworks. It may also be used at the auditor's discretion for major uncertainties, catastrophes, or significant related party transactions. Again, if there's anything that the auditor wants to point out that is really important according to their judgment, that even if it's not required, they may still use it in those situations. Now let's talk about explanatory paragraphs. In auditors of issuers, PCAOB standards require the use of explanatory paragraphs to serve the same purpose as emphasis of matter paragraphs in non-issuer audits. And again, remember, they also cover other matter paragraphs. These paragraphs are used to highlight matters such as justified accounting changes and going concern issues and are included without modifying the opinion. So again, explanatory paragraphs, the easiest way to think about it is that they're just kind of the issuer version of an emphasis of matter paragraph, but they can also cover other matter paragraphs, but you might not need to know that super deeply. Just remember, explanatory paragraph is for an issuer, emphasis of matter paragraph is for a non-issuer, and then other matter paragraphs are also for non-issuers. And other matter paragraph is used to communicate a matter not presented or disclosed in the financial statements, but relevant to users' understanding of the audit, the auditor's responsibilities, or the auditor's report. Common examples include references to prior audits by another auditor, restricted use reports, or reporting on supplementary information. And with that, we've gone over the pillar topics for this video. Again, we only went over 5 questions for today's YouTube video, but remember that if you become a SuperFast CPA Pro member, you will get access to the full 10-question version of this video when we post it in the member forum. So if you like this and you like our other videos, make sure you check out becoming a SuperFast CPA Pro member and you'll get access to a lot of great stuff, again, including the full versions of these videos. And the easiest way to learn about and become a SuperFast CPA Pro member is by going to superfastcpa.com and signing up for our free 1-hour webinar training. You'll learn a lot more about SuperFast CPA, we'll teach you the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam, and it will give you a good path to becoming a pro member. So make sure you check out the webinar, check out becoming a pro member, and with all that, if you liked the video, make sure to like it and leave a comment. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next video.